we're looking at this in terms of, give and take. At the end of the day, what they're trying to do is, get everybody to buy in and say this is not for a certain part of the country to continue to enjoy. Yes, some parts of the country produce this particular, resource, and as such should benefit more from the resource that they produce. But we do know that as a country, we need to reach these decisions, together, so to speak. And so some people believe that they have been marginalized. Do you think that this is way too much to concede to, just so everybody can get to buy into the proposals that we're putting forward?
No. Let's start from the oil producing areas. I'll give you an example of a place in Imo State called Awara. Old Haji Ebema Uguta local government. It's a big oil producing area, beginning with Zombe and so on. What is happening is that place is so damaged that even the water they drink is unsafe. They cannot plant anything because the soil there is now polluted. So what is going on? The people are dying of hardship. There is kwashoko right now in Awara. It's going on. And the people don't care. All they know is how to take their money, take the crude oil, whatever they want, and leave devastation in the wake. That is what we must take care of. Two, to get the other parts of the country to join in realizing that the oil-producing areas are suffering. Yes, something must give, but definitely not 5%. And whatever I give you must be for the whole country. Can never be for a section, then you leave the others hanging. That is why there was palpable anger yesterday.
What you do?
And now many of us have slept over it. We come in this morning to ask what is really going on.
You do admit that in the wake of this new terror wave, excuse me, not all the sections of the country have been equally devastated in equal measure, so to speak. Some areas have suffered the brunt of terrorism than other areas. You do not think that we should set aside, it seems you do agree that some monies is needed for infrastructure development, but some areas are in dire need of that infrastructure development more than others.
Well, if you are talking of infrastructure development, let's start with the roads. If you are looking at the road structure in this country, then you find out the areas that have suffered worst, either from the war that ended 40-something years ago, or from the usage of heavy trucks. Then we move down to terrorist actions and so on. All of them come in under infrastructure development fund, but let it be for the nation. Right now, Mr. President, in his wisdom, has devoted a certain, so I think it's 30 billion naira. And T.Y. Danjuma is heading the disposal of the funds and so on. But let me tell you, for it to be a constitutional matter, nobody will say 5%. It makes no sense.
And only for a section. We
are talking of what's happening in Northeast. We're talking of what is not happening elsewhere, and you're already allocating funds. Makes no sense.
What percentage do you think they will be looking at?
No, we have no problem with 5%, but for the whole country, it's not good for only a section. In other words, for the next 10 years, we may be allocating 5%. For what? Next 20 years, we are allocating. No. If you're saying 5% for the nation, we have no problem.
Mr. Wazirike, is it because we're looking at because if we're talking derivation, it will mean that they're going to be getting derivation from what they produce. But it will seem that this 5% is of the total revenue allocation. Is that where the contention is, sir?
That's correct. And frontline charge. In other words, we take it up front before we even talk of what to do.
Okay. So these are some of the reservations that delegates already have with the 5%. It is 5% of what? Right?
Yes, that's the first question. And then who determines what is to be done? In any case, we feel that this country needs a massive infusion of funds for development of infrastructure. as a nation, not as sections.
What we do know, Chief Uwazurike, that there are, I mean, generally it is believed that the North is generally more underdeveloped than the South. Is that something that we all agree?
I don't know how you got the statistics. But let me tell you this. The Southeast, where I come from, does not have the headquarters of any federal government agency or ministry or department. There is nothing there. If you are talking of in terms of developments in Nigeria, federal government, Southeast has 2.1%. If you are talking of Northeast, yes, it has 1.2. I agree. It needs some attention. But when it comes to underdevelopment, I think we should look at the country as a whole. Isolated selection is not good.
Looking at some of the statistics, because I mean, this is not just about roads and infrastructure. These are some of the statistics that have been rolled out in terms of health, in terms of education. The statistics generally do not favor the North. These are not just in terms of infrastructure, but some of the soft things that need to go in that will consume money, but maybe would only be felt over time. The South, the southern states definitely do a lot better in that area than states in the North.
Let me speak for Southeast where I know. In the Southeast, we do not depend on government for development. It's individual. All we ask for is open up the areas, build their roads so that people pass. Go and check the millionaires we have in this country. If you're a billionaire from the North and you have done nothing for your own area, then something's wrong. That is why till tomorrow I will always praise Elijah Abubakar, Atiku Abubakar. Of all of them, he was the only one who went home to go and put up structures where he came from. What of the others? Where are they? You have massive structures in Abuja, but you are coming from a state like Yobe, you have nothing there. You are coming from Borno, you have nothing there. Then when Borno matter arises, you stand up and say, my state. Development is a joint effort between the people and the government. Government opens up through road development, through electricity, then the people take off.
These are actually very, very salient points you've raised here, and it would seem as if the conference has actually touched a whole lot of issues, but we're looking at these two issues specifically, derivation as well as devolution of powers. But again, can you link all of this to the problem happening in the country? Specifically, let's talk about your region. You said you would want to restrict yourself to the Southeast. Tell us what obtains in the Southeast and what you've been able and other delegates have been able to espouse concerning the issues from that region.
Well, we came for the conference with a lot of baggage. Just like other areas also came with their own. So at the end of the day, you look at what and what you have been able to get and what others have been able to get. We all agree that nobody will go home without a certain package for his people, which is why I said the 5% infrastructure development should be for all, because it's a problem that is peculiar to all parts of Nigeria. So let's face the truth. If you must go home, you must tell your people, for instance, I've been able to attract this specific sum of money for development of roads. We're only part of it. But if you go home and tell them, this is for us, this is not for them, it does not make sense. Southeast, where we come from, yes, we have our own area, we have our own needs, very peculiar needs, which is why I said since the end of the war, those roads that were destroyed by armored tanks are still there. Those craters caused by bombs are still there. Nobody has talked of them. So if you are talking of development and you are setting aside funds, let us start from there. And also, not just Southeast, South-South, Northeast, Northwest, Southwest, North Central, everywhere.
Do you see a situation where if you all don't agree on what the recommendations should be or on the report of the Committee on Devolution of Power, Do you see yourselves going to vote on this matter? Either voice
There
votes
is a possibility there will be a vote. Remember, it's 70%. As it is now, we will vote where there is no 70% to allow these recommendations to pass. The status quo will remain, which is 13%. In other words, South will cry foul. Those who are planning 5% and so will also think twice. So all these things are all on the cards, or the table.
Do you think you have time? Do you still have enough time for negotiations and for compromise to be eventually reached?
Well, I suspect that today, when the tempers start rising, when tempers are boiling, they may ask for adjournment till Monday for us to sleep over it throughout the weekend. Those who couldn't sleep over it enough during the night will continue throughout the weekend. By Monday, when we come back, I'm sure we'll begin to see things in a different light. Perhaps the committee will come back and continue. And from what we even heard from the grapevine, some of those things read there, some committee members were shocked. So right now, we don't know what to say or what to do until we get there. And then when we're given a chance to start talking, even those committee members will be asked to speak.
All right. We hope that by then none of them will have a hangover so that they can just properly focus on this matter and sort it out, because time is ticking away. Thank you for speaking with us this morning. Mr. Godwin Wazirike is a lawyer. He's a delegate at the ongoing national conference and also the president of Aka Ikenga. We'll be back after this break. Join us again.